thanks so much, everyone, for joining. Sorry about all the technical difficulties here. So just briefly, sort of the purpose of this meeting is that we have a lot of people at status, and there's a lot of meetings and so on. And the idea is that we're doing lots of cool stuff, but there's some sort of cross-team and so on collaboration that would be useful. So the idea is that everyone here can sort of talk about things that we're working on, and we can have a bit of a discussion and see where there's syncing up points, and maybe some research that's relevant for other people, or maybe there's some client updates that impact certain teams or efforts, and so on. And an additional sort of use of this is that people can consume it after the fact, so that we have like this recording and we have notes and so on, so it's something you can refer to. And additionally, hopefully we'll be able to invite other people in the community and experts in their field and so on, so we can sort of talk about specific integration points and so on. And it's kind of loosely modeled after the Ethereum all dev meetings that are every other week, and yeah, roughly like that. So it's sort of a technically focused and not sort of presentation like town hall, but sort of more of a discussion. And we can, even though there might be someone who talks a bit more about some specific point, that is that we can have sort of general discussion about various topics and so on. So just briefly, first, let's talk about sort of infrastructure updates, and that includes general infra as peer-to-peer layer, security and testing, and then client updates, mobile and desktop. Then maybe if there's some research updates, and product area updates, and then specific ideas and miscellaneous stuff. That's roughly the sort of format. And then at the end, since this is sort of very new, we just want to do a check with everyone, see if people thought this was useful or not, and any feedback people have for how we can improve it. Before we get started with infrastructure updates, does people have something they want to add, either agenda or questions or anything? Right, cool. So I guess, Jacob, do you want to start off with general infra updates?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Oscar. Okay, so main stuff that's been happening is with Jenkins, I guess. That affects everyone. The master has been placed, and I'm almost ready to replace at least the Linux slaves. I was just working on Friday to get the desktop builds to work properly on Linux, and remaking their Jenkins file. So that should be done today, and the old slaves with far too small disk space will be gone. And we also have proper monitoring for all Jenkins machines except the macOS ones, because those are tricky. I'll have to think about those. Although with help from Roman, now we have one more macOS slave for building. The third one still doesn't work, but we might get that done. We'll see. The main problem is signing with Xcode, and that's essentially black magic. So sometimes get it working, sometimes don't. In other news, I don't know about the release happening this week, but I have the ability to add a third fleet in Hong Kong with Alibaba Cloud. And I wonder if we want, I don't know if we want it for this release this week, but maybe next week, so we can start testing it. We can discuss the details later in InfraCore, but I'd be happy to just add another fleet for just Hong Kong, so we can have all the three major continents covered, like area in Europe, United States, and Asia. So that would be neat. Anything else that will concern most people? I don't think so. That's the majority of it. Oh, I've done a lot of cleaning and logging for Kibana. There's a lot of noise from various services, so I've updated a lot of filtering services, and I've changed the formatting for how we send logs, which is now JSON. We can add any fields we want in RSS log configuration. So logs should be cleaner now in Kibana. Feel free to just add dashboards, add whatever graphs or views you might need. That's about it.
Since you asked, this week we won't be able to add any fleet for the reasons I will talk about in the client update.
Okay, thank you. That's great to know. Cheers.
And I have a question about the staging fleet. Has it been tested, or because I was briefly looking into that, and there's a commit, but I haven't really like let know other people that it's ready. So was it tested by the test team or not really?
For sure, it was not tested by test team.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I guess we should probably. Because there's a still issue in status React that's about selecting a fleet from the UI.
Yes,
somehow.
exactly. I don't think we have an easy way of selecting a fleet right now for testing.
Yep, that's true. Okay, I got it. Yeah, cool. So yeah, I've been only testing this with status Go, but yeah, cool. Yeah, whenever this is ready, we probably should also test it like thoroughly because.
But we might start with super simple thing, just adding one more job on Jenkins that will build nightly with just staging fleet. I mean, it should be. I mean, we can do it like in a few hours, right? Instead of making a UI that will take a few days, and then we'll do the UI after we already have something.
Yeah, we can think about it. I mean, because from the backend perspective, like at least from status Go perspective, I tested it; it was fine. But yeah, we do not have any nightly or like any periodical tests that does that. So yeah, maybe that's a good call to actually create a job.
But the fleet selection doesn't have to have a UI element. It could just be a file somewhere on the file system that selects which fleet to use when using status Go. It doesn't have to be in the UI.
Yeah, it's maybe a flag or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we'll see what's the best for that. Okay.
Cool. Right. Guess is there anything else on info? Should we move on to security?
I think I covered all of the major topics. There's a lot of smaller things, but I don't think it's the time for that.
All right. So hello, security. So when people haven't had a chance to talk to me yet, I want to introduce Corey, who just started working as a senior security software engineer this week. Corey, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. If I haven't talked to you, I'm Corey. Going to try and take over all security initiatives, at least like lead them across status, which includes picking up the champion program and making that more robust so that like, the overall culture of status is at least asking the right types of questions. And generally speaking, I can't fix all the problems, but I can try and help give tools and provide tools to people across the building teams that they can make better decisions because they're the domain experts in whatever they're doing. So as long as we continue talking about these things, I'll try and provide tools that help people make better decisions about security from an overall perspective, whether that be securing the infrastructure, making sure that people who are trying to get at them can't, to thinking about changes being made and whether or not they break something or add vulnerabilities or cover up or fix vulnerabilities, to like just maintaining your own personal security better, as well as making sure the end user has an intuitive experience about what the differences in status are compared to other messaging platforms and how to like keep their digital valuables safe and secure using status. At least that's the goal. Do you have any in particular questions for me or anything like that? I've talked with a good portion of people so far on how we're planning on doing that. I'll have a kind of a introductory blog post thing that I'll publish here pretty soon. That's going to be kind of my overall viewpoint on these things and what I think is important and how to go about doing these types of stuff. But until then, it's just kind of like a hello.
Well, what are the problems we can have with security in status? I mean, we have different. We have the desktop status and the mobile. So I think the security here is about the mobile version. And what would be the cases? I mean, the user need to be rootkitted to have some issues, or what could happen? You have some idea?
On the mobile app, I mean, the mobile app has, I guess each thing has its own world
for the
around
mobile.
security. So for the mobile, it's going to be along reproducible builds, so that people who build or get an app understand that it's built correctly. Deterministic builds is going to be, I think, a big push for that, to make sure that you can check to make sure whatever you're getting is what you're supposed to be getting. And then, I'm in the process of trying to absorb how all of the stuff currently works and how all the pieces of status fit together. So it's hard for me to have hard opinions on what needs to be done and who to go to do it.
Yeah, because I see that we can have some problem, as I said, with the modified version, like a fake version of status being installed in users. And for that we can maybe have some kind of fingerprinting or signed app that would help solving this. But I also wanted to know more about rootkitted Android devices, because I see that there is some potential of risk in rootkitted devices, especially in Android.
What's the question? Is that a problem or?
Yes. We should look what are the risk of rootkitted Androids being used in status, because status saves the key of the user in a encrypted password in somewhere in the private data of the app. So in rootkitted devices, this could be not so safe way. So we should see, maybe status could check if the app is installed in a device that this is rootkitted, and maybe even warn the user about this. I see that there are some applications that doesn't allow to be run in rooted devices. Maybe we should only warn them.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can. Yeah, maybe we can talk more about the specific threat models like that later, as we get sort of more high granular sort of views on security and so on.
I'm hoping to set up like different like threat hunts, vulnerability sessions, things like that with each team across status, so that we can dig into like specifics of each like problem set that you may have. Because what you're looking at and how you handle security on a mobile app is very different than looking at the status go type of stuff, things like that. As of right now, I can't. I want to look into rootkits, but I think having all of us together trying to ask the questions at the same time is better than doing it right now.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to add that was actually tested during the first audit. So that company they actually ran those tests on a root unlocked or whatever Android version. And our app actually signals this when it's run for the first time. But I don't remember it exactly. It might be a problem when you install status, then you unlock Android or like rootkit or whatever, and then run the status again. So then when you run it again, it just not notify you about it. So there's like there might be an issue with that. But overall, we do notify users when status is run for the first time on a unlocked Android. So just a comment about it.
But here's another question about security. That in status we also going to have this multiple. Like we don't only rely on the security of the app on the smartphone. Because of this, we are also developing the hardware wallet, so the user could have like this multiple layer security. So if the user gets actually hacked or something like this, it would be very unlikely, because there is all these layers of security. One is the application, the cell phone, and the other is this hardware wallet that works together. So it would need to be like a fake hard wallet and a fake application to make it bad action. So it's kind of redundant security. So I think this is a good approach for us to have this redundancy in security. You can also think about security of the smart contracts to enhance it, but for now I see that status is going forward a good security model for its users.
What do you guys, should we move on, because we quite a lot of things to go through, and I think we can talk about this a lot, but maybe it's useful if we have, like, if it's more of a specific framework, and then we can talk about things that are more useful to lots of people. What do people think about that?
Yeah, I think like those are valid concerns, but yeah, I would move them to a separate meeting.
I wanted to move into. Oh, sorry. Good.
Yeah, I also agree that it's a lot of things to discuss, like especially with priorities. Like there are some parts of products that being developed but not yet being used by users, and some that already released and is used by a wider audience. So setting priorities and making separate sections would be great, because yeah, for sure we will not talk about it in like 30 minutes or so.
And I'll be doing a lot of that like very soon, trying to set up those meetings so we can have those conversations in depth.
Perfect. I guess, Igor, do you want to do a brief update on Security Champions? Where we're at?
Yeah, we did finish some kind of or we will finish tomorrow the training session for Andre and Goran. I guess tomorrow is the last kind of education related day, and then we'll start. First of all, I'll start moving stuff towards Corey, so he will be taking over this. So it makes sense. So we don't have like two people doing the same job essentially. And but we'll start looking into like real and thinking about attack like vectors on the real PRs and real features that will come to both wallet and the app starting like tomorrow, hopefully. That's from the security.
Can I ask about training, and is it possible to share with more people, like testing, for example?
Well, I mean, so far we decided to, since it was like just to try, sort of, we decided to keep it like more private, as we probably should in this company. But since it went pretty well, at least I heard nice like feedback about this. So maybe we can just do something that is more like open to like people who are just interested. So I just limited it this time just to have less overhead since it was the first one. But yeah, I probably need to sync up with Corey about this first, and then we can do that. But of course, like if someone is interested in security, then of course the trainings and stuff like this we'll provide, because that's kind of the point of decentralization.
Cool. And then, but initially we had planned a second audit. I guess, Adam, what's the latest on it right now? You know?
Oh, yeah. So we pretty much prepared a draft that I'm gonna send right after this meeting, that we pretty much postpone it to sometime in the future. So I briefly described our situation and what we talked about in Basel, send them a few links so they maybe can also understand it better. But yeah, I'm just from our perspective, it doesn't look like any doing it now make any sense. It's going to be lots of time for us and for them. From their perspective, it doesn't matter, but from our perspective, it's just like losing money and spending them on something that's not going to be really useful or it's going to change. So yeah, we pretty much want to tell them that we can do this in September, and yeah, we are going to resolve the issues, and then we'll figure out what's next.
Cool. And also, I would just briefly 2 points of context. Initially, the reason for having that planned audit was because we wanted to push sort of a public release before DevCon. And given the OKR process this quarter, it doesn't seem to be that much of a priority anymore. And secondly, because we're sort of changing around with the messaging protocol, and we want to push up some kind of spec that we'll talk about later, it's probably more worthwhile to first have that spec reviewed on a theoretical level before sort of diving deeper into the specific implementation and so on. Just some additional context. Sorry, Rachel.
No, I think you covered it. I just wanted to know if there was going to be another target date to begin the security audit, but it sounds like it's just going to be based on when we have those some of these issues resolved.
Yeah, as far as I know, there's no specific date on where we want to postpone this, but yeah, it's pretty much about making sure that we are actually ready. So I believe that maybe we'll try to repeat the activity from Basel and figure out if we actually ready with the trade-offs that we have, because there will always be some trade-offs. So whether they are okay and we want to push for 1.0 or something like that or not. And also, I believe the protocol itself, the messaging protocol, is gonna be audited as a separate entity. So I guess like briefly, we talked about kind of two-stage audit. So we audit the protocol independently from the implementation or the implementation itself, and later how it's integrated with the status. So there might be even like 3 rounds, like theoretical 1 and 2 implementations. So like implementation and integration. I don't know yet, but that such ideas were like mentioned before.
Thanks, Adam.
Cool. So I guess moving into peer-to-peer and talking about the new peer discovery protocol, Adam or Dimitri?
Yeah, I mean, okay. So I wanted to like briefly talk not only about the new protocol, but also like a general status of the peer-to-peer network status. So just to briefly, like, I'll just walk briefly through the whole thing right now so that everyone understands, because I believe there's some confusion how it looks like right now. So yeah, let me just like briefly describe it. So we have the status cluster, which is a bunch of servers running in 3 data centers, as far as I know, and 3 different providers. So that's cool from the kind of censorship resistant. So even one IPs or one data center is blocked, which happens in Russia, then we should have at least one which is still working. And yeah, we run them like boot nodes, whisper nodes, mail servers, this kind of stuff. And they are all together, like connected together. So even though there are like 3 data centers and 3 different providers, all of those should talk to each other. So it doesn't matter to which one you are connected to, and user does not know that. So yeah. And later we have like status network, pretty much. That's what we can call it or describe it, which is totally separate from Ethereum network. So we have a patch in like on Go Ethereum that creates pretty much a different version of Discovery protocol. And we also put a check, and it checks if a connecting peer has the same version of Discovery protocol. And if it does not, it just disconnected. So it's not possible right now to connect to our network from outside, because that peer is just going to be rejected. And similarly, we cannot connect to any nodes, like to find any nodes from the Ethereum network. So we pretty much have like a separate network formed by our cluster, and which is used to communicate with all people that are using status app. And it was done purely because of efficiency. So there's like relatively small number of nodes that you need to keep track of. So it's much easier to find nodes, good nodes, because we also maintain all our nodes with high uptime, and the communication is much more reliable than it was before when we were using this whole Ethereum network. Yeah, the drawback is, of course, that we break our principles. So decentralization, as we are trying to do that on our level and make and use different regions, different data centers, it's still kind of centralization because we run this, and it's not like anyone can run a separate node and start connecting to us. They could do that, but it requires to not run an Ethereum node, but pretty much our version of Ethereum client. Yeah. What we have been doing recently, and what Dimitri has been researching, is the new peers discovery protocol, which is called Rendezvous, and it's based on a proposed libp2p specification. There's a pull request to libp2p spec repo, and it describes very simple but very efficient peers discovery protocol. And I've seen like a couple of other issues or pull requests that people are trying to implement this. But yeah, we did it as well, and we wanted to use it in the future versions of the mobile app. So we believe that this protocol can be used as a kind of default protocol. It's gonna just inform about the nodes that the app is interested in. For example, I need Whisper nodes, I need my server nodes, and Rendezvous protocol can discover those and send them back to the mobile app in a very efficient and fast way. But we also would like to run our server nodes to support that new discovery protocol, but also support the Ethereum discovery protocol and remove the patch that was blocking external nodes to connect to our nodes. So pretty much our server nodes would become part of the Ethereum network, but they would also support this new peer discovery protocol. This way, we would not sacrifice any efficiency on the mobile side. That would be still super fast and reliable, but our server nodes would just become like Ethereum nodes, and they will operate normally, and they would not be really distinctive from the other Ethereum nodes. This is really important with LES support, because what you need to have LES support is LES servers. So we could run LES servers on our own, but that's another centralization level that we would need to maintain those, and also scalability problem, because running LES servers is much more difficult than running Whisper nodes. So we probably, in the first version of LES support, we would probably want other people to just try to find LES servers from the Ethereum network. And yeah, for that we need to our server nodes to be part of the whole single Ethereum network and not form like something aside, something separate. Yeah, so that's pretty much the story. I've seen some comments on the chat, so let me just quickly read them. We are excluding ourselves from Ethereum with that, right? Yes, currently we are excluded from the Ethereum network. So our nodes are kind of forming a separate network, even though they are using the same protocols. They are totally separate entity. They are not connected in any way to the Ethereum network. And Ivan said that this breaks his heart. Yeah, and I believe that's one of the things that we did, and it's really violates our principles and rules that we talked about recently. So yeah, I think like we should get rid of that as soon as possible and use this new Rendezvous peers discovery protocol that Dimitri created, because it might resolve the same issue that the issues that we had before, and which resulted in this separate cluster. And yeah, this protocol can just provide the same goals, the same properties that we right now have with a separate cluster, but not having the separate cluster. So yeah, that we need to test it further, but yeah, we want to fix this, and there's a plan. So hopefully it's gonna be good.
Do we think this would also be? Do we think this would also be useful for other people, other teams in the space? And is it possible that this could be an EIP?
Like this, like the new peers discovery protocol. Do you refer to that, or like the? Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
and the hybrid thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. Like the whole description of the solution might be something that could be useful for people who want to run mobile nodes, pretty much, or like other nodes that are restricted in terms of resources and CPU and other things. Yeah, definitely. But as I said, the peers discovery protocol is not something that we kind of designed from scratch. This is implementation of a proposed libp2p spec that is called.
Like one comment is that it's not the exact implementation. It's kind of similar, but with lots of small differences.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
okay. So it's probably would be also cool to maybe maybe describe them, because there are, I guess there are like implementation details, right? The whole concept of how Rendezvous works is the same, just there are like some implementation details, right?
Yeah, the whole concept is the same, but there are differences in API, there are differences in serialization format. So yeah, kind of implementation details.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, sorry. Yeah, but sorry, I'm in a noisy place, so I'm trying to speak as minimal as possible. So I've been reviewing a couple of talks and slides from authors of discovery of the V4 and V5 discovery, and they mentioned this explicitly. They open to experiment and maybe like try in the future libp2p approaches. So I think we would all benefit from using Rendezvous if it's like if it doesn't have, drawbacks, and so it's not only for mobile, right? So I think we should push for including it as a default discovery mechanism for Ethereum itself. In this way, we will not separate our cluster from the Ethereum network. But it involves probably writing some posts, persuading people, explaining, maybe giving talks on why it's better, etc., etc. So it's kind of more broad effort than just implementing it. But I think this is where we should put a lot of effort.
If you want to hear some of what the other client implementers think of this, you can join the all core devs hub. But unless it's implemented by everybody on our network, our client becomes less useful.
Sorry, I did not catch the whole comment of yours. So the thing with Rendezvous is that it's also right now actively tried and experimented with in IPFS projects. So I've seen like issues and pull requests that people are trying to do that. So it's already happening, and as Ivan said, the whole Ethereum experiments are also towards libp2p. So yeah, I think that it's totally probable that maybe this protocol is something different, but based on Rendezvous, will replace the current discovery protocol and will be like a default peers discovery protocol. It's still, I guess, undecided. But yeah, it may happen. So if we like have a good experience with it, we just collaborate, write some blog posts, like try to describe it and let people understand. That might be a huge benefit in that. There's a comment from Jacek.
Yes, I was going to suggest maybe we can identify other teams where this would be, or other clients and so on, where this would be useful. And just like said in the chat, like there's an all core devs call to gauge the appetite of other client implementers to go with this. So it might be useful to reach out to other teams and either through this all core devs, or I don't know if there's like the Ethereum chat or something like this, and see what other teams think about it. Or what do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely. And can we start, maybe, I don't know, Dmitry, maybe you're the best person to do this. Can we start just by creating a table with comparison of two Disk V5 and Rendezvous, and explaining the pros and cons of both protocols? Can we start with that?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think that was already posted, like Dimitri posted something like that, but like you have table and comparison of numbers between Discover version 5 and Rendezvous, but yeah.
It was just numbers. It was just numbers on the traffic usage, and it definitely Rendezvous is much better. but maybe there are some drawbacks. Maybe there are different trade-offs that are not suitable for other clients, etc.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think it's really good material for more research and for a blog post even and or EIP. Yeah, whatever. But I think that the first stage would be to actually start using this, because we are testing that kind of simulated environment. We haven't been really tested that with mobile devices yet. So as soon as we push it to the staging fleet, we could start testing it with some real scenarios, and later use it with the as a default peer discovery protocol. And after that, I believe that it would be really proof that at least in some load, how it operates and how good it is. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool. Yeah, and yeah, that would be it. So yeah, that's the state of peer-to-peer stuff right now.
Cool. Should we move on to testing, or does someone else have something else? All right, cool. Testing.
So I believe we should speak about end-to-end tests, right? Automated testing as part of infra. For several weeks, we've been focused on reliability and increasing coverage, and we have decent progress in that. Basically, we have two types of runs now: extended run against nightly build, which have more than 100 of tests, and in those builds, we have 10% of average failures, which is great. And another type of build is built against PR, and we are running more than half of 100 tests there, and we have 16%. So we have less tests but more failures. And I think that our future goal is to start implementing blocking of merge if tests are failing in PR. And I want to talk about that extended here, because we have a lot of people right now, and I can get your opinions. We made a survey before, and only one person was against blocking a PR, which is, I believe, great also. And I just want to explain how it's going to work, steps for us steps to be done before implementing that block. First of all, I want to explain the 4 types of results that we have in automated tests. Right now, it's obvious result is bug, but it can be known or new one. And average is 50% of failed tests is due to bugs, real issues in product, known or new issues. Also, we have feature changed in product, and it's only 4% when something changed, works in new way, or just disabled. 12% for infrastructure issues, and 28% for false failures. It's when something went wrong in test. Also, we have one significant issue, very important. Some PRs have no end-to-end test results. From what I can see, there were no builds against PRs. So 20% of PRs have that issues, and a lot of them are from extended contributors. So we are going to solve that in the nearest future. And so how we are going to block PR from merge? Basically, what should we do before doing that? First of all, we need to fix all known issues from develop. I'm going to make a link in chat. There are only 4 known issues which are blocking tests, and they are in develop. And also, after, we are going to add an ability to understand whether it's a new issue introduced in this PR or it's known issue. And what are we going to do? We are going to increase details on our error messages and like we will have more detailed error messages, and we are going to match results from nightly developed builds with results in PRs, and if they are the same, we are not going to mark it like failed, but like warning the same result, like the same issue is present in nightly build, and such issues won't block a PR from match. So for infrastructure failures, we will just increase number of rerun attempts, and it should be fine. Right now we have like feature changed and false failures left to be solved before blocking a PR. And as we tried for a month or more, right now we are fixing those failures in scope of the developer's PR commit in the same PR and rerunning of tests. It works really great. And but anyway, like something can go wrong, and I don't know, maybe we will lost all our infrastructure, or we will get some big feature changes, so we will have a lot of failed tests, and for that we are going to add an option to unblock a merge for APR. It should be available only for testers, since automation is basically regression testing. If you have no results of automated testing, it means that there were no regression testing against this PR. So in that way, we have test runs for each PR in test rails, the tool for QAs. And what we are going to do, we're just going to add for specific test run, for specific PR, we're going to add a pattern unblock merge. So we will be able to unblock this if something went wrong. That's it. And if you have any questions, objections, suggestions, much appreciated.
I would like to check with, I guess, maybe Julian and maybe Pedro. Like, what do you think is needed in order to rely on automated tests? That's like, yeah, what's missing right now from your point of view as a developer?
To be honest, I don't have maybe it's the 2 weeks vacation, but I don't have a strong opinion right now about that. I don't know about the others.
Yeah, missing from what? I didn't catch exactly what you said, Oscar.
No, because we talked about automated testing some. So I was just wondering what your thoughts are around this plan, and if you have any concerns, like what would be needed in order to sort of trust the automated tests and so on. Because I know in the past we've had they haven't been 100% necessarily. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess the biggest point is indeed trust and visibility. And yeah, to be honest, I think most of the Clojure developer, at least they just ignore everything. They don't even look at it. So yeah,
one thing I remember. Sorry, can you finish? I'll
go on.
Take it off. One thing I remember seeing as an issue was that it wasn't clear when something failed on your branch or it was already failing in the parent branch. So once we have this, when it's failing really because there was a comparison between the parent branch and your branch, and new tests started failing, for me that's a great step forward. Because right now we have no idea.
Yeah, we are going to add that. So we want.
That's great.
But what Julian? What's the issue? Why you don't why Clojure devs are not looking at those results? Can you accept knowing that it's in develop or in PRs? Any other problems? What should be improved? What should be changed for us to rely?
Well, maybe it's just about perception, but historically we had a lot of false positive and tests failing, even if they were not supposed to fail. So maybe it's just that now those issues have been fixed and we can start relying again on tests. But it's just, from a psychological perspective, we just get used to ignore those failures. And so I guess we have to maybe synchronize and make sure we can leverage them again.
So as an example, I looked at the last pull request that was built 2 minutes ago. It's 96% of end-to-end tests have passed. And this is just adding like a single constant. So that means that developers can't trust them because there's 2 random tests that are failing, at least from what I can tell. So I guess it's getting rid of the sort of false positives that would be most needed, because otherwise we can't block on merge. And I think that's what John is saying, that if you're a developer and you look at it and you see 90-something% passed, and then you know that the failed ones are just random failures, then you don't trust it. I think that's the problem. And maybe it's partly a infrastructure problem, like maybe it's related to timeouts and so on. So maybe there's some need for infrastructure investment. I'm not sure.
But
it's not about...
when you're looking right now at the 2 failed tests, how you know that it's not actual problems found? Like right now, if you're not blocking the merge, then we're not changing the culture. Like, okay, I can ignore it and I don't care about the tests, but the tests are there to prevent anyone manually testing it. And like as Anton mentioned, we sent a survey asking exactly the same questions, like, guys, why you don't trust tests? What should be done? And I, again, from testing perspective, I'd rather now.
I mean, in my view, like if you make a pull request that changes like a constant and it doesn't sort of break things, then like you should have 100% end-to-end test. And if the thing is that it's a bug, so someone else has broken sort of the test, then that should probably be priority to fix it. But right now it seems like sometimes the failures are sort of random, or it's sort of there's no process around fixing them because there's timeouts and all this stuff. So I guess like the point is that it should be 100% like pretty much all the time. From my point of view, I don't know.
There are flaky issues. For example, like you can open that link and you can see that 2 of those registered issues are happening from time to time in different transaction tests. Like you can see replacement transaction enterprise.
And so that's what we need to fix, right? Because until we fix that, developers won't trust tests. It's that simple.
Exactly.
Like.
Yeah. Exactly, and this why we have this end-to-end blocker, and it's waiting for you to fix them. Like it's waiting for all developers to fix them. And I'm not sure. Like maybe we can agree on the better process, but yeah, it's in the GitHub. At least our test automation teams should constantly remind about them. But it's like, yeah, the issues are there. They need investigations. Logs are there. Everything is there. We just need developers.
Is this something we can take care of in the mobile team? Because it seems like it's something that should block releases, right? Or maybe the test should be removed if they're not useful. One of the 2. It seems like.
No, wait. Do I understand correctly that it's an actual issue with transactions, that replacement transaction was created instead of a new transaction? That means we don't generate the right nonce on the client. That means we have a bug that's not reproduced always. But if that's why tests fail, they should fail for that, right?
Is there any oversight on tests failing? Like if something does fail, is there someone that does the person who tries to submit the PR just ignore them, or is there someone that has to check to make sure this is a real bug or it's random or anything like that?
I mean, I just want to double check. It's the bug in the client, right? So it creates a transaction that cannot be published somewhere because it's a quote-unquote replacement transaction instead of a real transaction, right?
Yes, I can link that the issue, like there are 4 issues which may be or might not be reproduced with 100% rate. They are linked here. Give me 1 second to relink. So Like we have not only the replacement of transaction, but we have this take to loan proceed from pending status, and everything is there, and we can't ignore that. Like we can't disable those tests because we won't test that functionality.
Is this something we can address as part of the release pipeline in the mobile team? Igor, what do you think?
Well, the first one is definitely a status go issue. It's replacement transaction underpriced. It means that what was generated is not in sync with whatever was in there. So it's either Infura or our interaction with Infura is wrong. So it's not a mobile team really. It's status go. The second one, though we can just send it one more time, worst case if it doesn't work. The second one I don't see. Yeah, the third one is definitely mobile team.
So it seems like what we need like a concentrated effort on getting it to 100%, and then it should stay at 100%, right? So
but these four are not flaky tests. These four are flaky status. So that's what not that test automation developer should fix that. That should like status developer should fix that. Yeah, we need to prioritize it a little bit more.
What can we do to fix them once and for all? Because we want to get to the point where we can actually make it part of our pipeline, so we can, testers know that that these things are taken care of, and developers can trust that the tests that they didn't introduce faults. So, do people have any thoughts around how we can get to that stage?
Oh, I mean, blocking pull requests might be a good solution, even though some developers will suffer, and not those who introduce these issues. But well, it's kind of they will be forced to fix them.
Maybe we can have as part of a next bug fixing day or week or whatever, where we just squash these things once and for all, and then with the end goal of it being 100%. Automated tests succeeding, and then we can turn on that they are blocking. What do people think about that?
Yeah, makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I'd rather not wait for any bug fixing days that we haven't got, I don't know, since like 2 or 3 months, but put them high priority issues and treat them like the most important things to fix after release blockers are fixed. Really. Like, we can't rely on the tests why we develop new functionality or fix new bugs if we have like high priority existing bugs.
I agree with that.
Yeah. I think we should do that. And I guess, Adam, do you remember we had this issue before with the replacement transaction underpriced when the Go pipeline also was failing because of that every now and then. I don't know. Did we do anything to fix it, or?
I don't remember. I would need to have like a specific issue that we are talking about, because there was a couple of related issues, but I don't know. We were trying to fix them, but sometimes there was like just a flake and.
So maybe in instead of time we can focus this to Slack, but I suggest that we look at all the blockers and we make sure that they are assigned at least to a team, and then maybe it would make sense if we can arrange like another bug fixing day or period. I don't know, but we can look at it after the call or simultaneously and just make sure that they all assigned. What do people think of that?
Yeah, I think let's just put them into high priority and fix them after release blockers are fixed, or at least investigate them. Yeah, we need to.
They just need to be assigned to a specific team, or because that's the thing, it's falling between chairs, right?
Yeah.
But I believe
can I answer the question? Why it's called replacement transaction? One small thing, and then we continue. So why it's called replacement transaction? We generate nonce for every transaction on the client side. So first we get it from Infura, I guess, but then if we send multiple transactions, we keep internal counter of them, and the only way of there is this thing about replacement transaction in Ethereum is general. So you send one transaction, but then you realize it is wrong. You want to replace it while it's still pending. So you just send the transaction with different parameters, but the same nonce. And then the server is supposed to replace it inside pending. But the thing is, with these transactions, you need to pay more gas for them than to the normal transactions. And yeah, essentially, because of some bug somewhere in our code, we send multiple transactions with the same nonce to Infura. And so it thinks that they are replacement transactions, but we still keep the gas price as for normal transactions. That's why it fails. Yeah, so.
Should we?
Yeah, Ricardo, we can just talk about it separately.
Should we move on to client updates?
Well, Anna wanted to say something.
Sorry, Anna? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, just the summary. After the meeting, we can go to Slack to check that all end-to-end test blockers are assigned to the team and get the high priority issues and get confirmation from each team lead that they will be treated as a high priority issues, right?
Yes.
Great, that's it.
That's cool. I guess client updates, Igor, mobile first.
Yeah. Last week we did a security update, and this week it turns out that there is India, right? And they have their own token, or Bounties networks have their own token there. And the token, unfortunately, it's only available in Rinkaby. And that means that first we need to add this token, which is a pretty trivial task. But since it's on Rinkaby and all our test tokens were always on Ropsten, so we only tested it, as I understand, on Ropsten on mainnet. So we kind of need to test everything in like Rinkaby wise. So that's why we just taken the previous release. So it's like we want to have absolutely the smaller regression scope that we can, absolutely the smallest one. So we just take the previous release and then just add like what it was, like 2 commits to be able to have this custom token for East India in there. And then we also add some bug fixes, like to make Rinkaby, like right now the problem is that Rinkaby cannot really talk to any other network because we can't keep Rinkaby cluster separate. So to fix that, so Rinkaby users can also chat with other users in status. And after that, we'll release this, but we'll release it not like usually we release on Monday. We should release it by Friday because Friday is the first day of the conference. So it's a little bit weird week in terms of releases. So that's why we won't really get any other changes. We'll take just previous week's release, make some super minor changes to it and re-release it just to be able to do this in time. As for the next week, we hope that we'll finally get all the new updates in Status Go, the version that Adam was preparing, and probably, I don't know, maybe the new fleet that Jakob wanted to, but this will be next week, I think, since it's bi-weekly meeting, I guess it makes sense to think about the next one as well. So yeah, I guess that's it from the mobile team.
May I add a small update also? We also would like to run some load tests, right, on this S India.
Right. We wanted to run some load tests on to just simulate S India. Yeah. I guess there is like 500 users, and so far that's what we know about it, right? So we need to communicate a bit more.
Yeah, we're still looking for the use case, but we also like checking right now the testing, like getting the build ready to be tested for functional issues. And if there are no, and we can actually communicate on Rinkaby and on with other networks. And if there are no more showstoppers or blockers found, then we'd like to go to load tests. And by that time, we hope to clarify the exact use cases to load, actually. That's it.
Yeah.
Max on desktop.
Yes. So recently we have discussed that we are going to have nightly builds for desktop. Thank you, Jakub, for working and looking into that. And once we will be there, we supposing to start chatting internally in desktop app. Also, at the moment, we have issues with Jenkins build for desktop. It's because on Linux machines was not too much space, and desktop builds takes pretty a lot spaces. After that will be resolved, then every PR for status React will trigger Jenkins builds both for mobile and desktop. This might affect everyone. In general, right now we still working on resolving some blockers from on low level from React Native desktop library. There are like one or two serious blockers. Once they will be resolved, application should be available for internal usage and should work good enough to this. And also we are working on finishing different features for user interface, like push notifications and polishing interface to resolve different UI issues. So that's it.
Cool. I just want to take a second to ask people. So according to sort of what we set for time, we got started maybe 50 minutes late. There's 50 minutes to go from scheduled time. We have quite a bit left to go through. Would people prefer to finish in 15 minutes, or would people be all right extending it? And obviously people can leave whenever they feel like it's not useful to them. Do you have a preference, like roughly, what do people think? So either sort of staying?
I'm good to stay.
Yeah. Any other opinions?
I'm good as well.
Stay. All right. Cool. All right. So it seems like we are okay with extending. And if someone wants to leave, yeah, just go ahead and leave. And you can also just look at the stream afterwards. All right. Next one. Or I guess, do we have any questions on client work? Cool. Research updates. We have one thing, P2P Whisper node incentivization, and then I don't know if Jacek or Ricardo or someone else has something they want to talk about, but we can start with Dimitri and Whisper node incentivization.
Okay. So yes, I started doing research about mechanisms that can be used for incentivizing Whisper nodes, and at the moment I collected small documents which I pasted a couple of times in different channels, but here is it again in the chat. So I guess I don't have time right now to share all the details, but maybe it makes sense to go over main points. Does it? Does it make sense to go over main points?
Yeah, I would love to.
I think so. Yeah, just briefly to give people an idea, maybe.
Okay. So in current construction, I propose to make it based on the reputation system, and there is very good amount of research about distributed reputation systems that work reliably in, again, distributed environment and can withstand known attacks like CBILS, whitewashing, some others which are described there. So the first goal is to actually build such system and prove that we can get reliable rating from the network. Forbidden. Okay, so the first goal is to build such a system and prove that we can get reliable rating from it. And then, based on this rating, peers will be able to select other peers that have like mobile peers will be able to select peers with high rating and pay them for a service. So there is also research required to figure out the best payments model. At the moment, I arrived at conclusion that it can be done over like regular payment channel, and payments are incremental. So like if you pay for 10 minutes and then pay for 20 minutes, only one payment will be executed on chain, and yeah, something like that. I see. Okay, I will figure out rules after the call. I probably broke something yesterday. I was changing things.
I guess I have one question or thought around this sort of micropayments approach, because it makes sense as an abstraction for like computer-to-computer networks, but as sort of humans, it's not sort of a nice. It's probably not the main concern to have right now, but I'm just curious how people think about this, because this paper by Nick Szabo on like mental transaction costs and the fact that microtransactions are not very useful for humans. So generally you want to have sort of a higher threshold. So I'm wondering what people's thoughts are on the possibility of having like a higher level kind of thing on top of it. Yeah.
So there is actually one important technical reason, like security reason for doing small payments, and this because we cannot guarantee that rating will not change over time, and that the peer which we will connect with is perfectly trustless. I mean, perfect peer. Perfect peer with perfect history and perfect quality of service. So we cannot guarantee that it will stay like this in the next day or next month. So that's a reason to make such small payments. And another argument is that there is at least one very good white paper that I found. It talks about incentivized Tor network. It's called Orchid network. You can find it if you want, and they also using such small micropayments. It probably makes sense to show something different to a user, like. So I guess,
yes, we need to figure out sort of what, but maybe that's more collaboration with UX research and stuff, because there are. Like phone cell usage is one thing where people like there are ways to figure it out, and the same thing with gas when you have a car and stuff. You top up and like all these things. So, but maybe that's like a layer above, and we can figure it out with UX research later.
One thing that the Swarm team is doing is that they're allowing service providers to put a stake to a promise that they make, and if you can prove that they did not uphold that promise, you get rewarded for it. So instead of having small little payments, the provider promises to be good, and if they're bad, they get.
Oh yeah, actually,
yeah.
How can you prove bad behavior in this scenario?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we cannot do. So in Swarm, as I understand, when you store some chunk in some servers, this server will provide you with a proof of inclusion, like common Merkle pass, sign it with a key that the server possesses, and then you can go and prove bad behavior if the server doesn't store this chunk sometime in the future. Like, we cannot do it. The only thing that we can provide is like this approximation of quality. I don't know if it makes sense, but we cannot guarantee that this peer is good or this peer is bad. We cannot only provide an approximate rating for this peer.
And those can be falsified, I'd imagine. If you don't have a hard metric for proving bad behavior, then you can also falsify claims of bad behavior.
Well, one thing is that message delivery can be verified, like the quality of the message delivery system, for example.
I'm not sure about that. That's the case in Whisper. One proposal that I have for this initial rating gathering is that actually you generate a message and send it to one peer, and then because of the Whisper properties, you must receive it from other peers. So that would be for gathering initial feedback about each concrete peer. But in broader terms, message delivery, what does it mean in Whisper? What is message delivery?
Yeah, I guess there are some open questions with that approach as well.
It's definitely something we should look into more as well, in terms of if there are ways we can get these guarantees. Because it's a really nice system. If you haven't read it, there's this SwapSphere Swindle paper, and it's really nice with the staking solution and how you sort of take these guarantees, and then you can do slashing and partial slashing and stuff, and it is kind of a similar cryptoeconomic thing to what's happening with Ethereum 2.0. So if we can regain some of those things, it would be a nice property, but maybe it's difficult with Whisper. I don't know if things change with the PSS. I don't know, Jessica, do you have any thoughts on that? If we're to move to PSS, for example.
No, it's the same thing.
Right. Anyone else?
I would raise the point that this is similar to how many contracts work in the real world. You set up a contract. That's what it's inspired by. Basically, you set up a contract, you make a claim, somebody else proves that it's wrong, and there's like a judge process that revokes that sort of deals with that. And the way they imagine it is that if you can't have a fully reliable system, you use an oracle instead, and that oracle is something that you'd have to agree upon with the service provider and with the client, and you'd have to come up with a sufficiently targeted metric.
So we could imagine. Yeah, so maybe there's ways we can do it that wouldn't be perfect, but something similar where users can somehow say that this is like a bad provider in some way, and if it passes on threshold or whatever, maybe you can do things like that. Even if it's not perfect, it would still regain some of these properties.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with the payment system in SwapSphere Swindle. They don't require exact tit-for-tat accounting. They allow some slack. The idea is that in order to minimize the overhead, you for example, you might provide a little bit more service than you should, assuming that it works in most cases, and then bad behavior is penalized afterwards. It's got sort of an optimistic model for service.
I'm also not sure that we can use this, not tit for tat, but what Triple S are using for Whisper. It also doesn't I don't see how it's useful in our case. Are they going to use it for PSS? Or like, was there any discussion about it?
Yeah, I think they plan to use it for PSS. They plan to use it for storage first, but then PSS as well.
Yeah, but for storage it makes sense because you actually, well, you know, it's not a broadcast. You store a chunk and you retrieve a chunk, so you kind of explicitly state what your action is. And Whisper is just a network that is a traffic that is just broadcasted everywhere.
Yeah, but for example, for a mobile phone, what it could be used for is that we have super whisper nodes which provide better proof of stake, for example, for messages that get forwarded that way for payment, right? And that is something that is easy to prove, that the message got sent out in the network with the given proof of work. That's something that you can verify by running yet another client, right? If you suspect that a server is not forwarding your messages, you can take specific action in order to measure it and then report the results.
Yeah, but again, it's like there will be some oracle that must be trusted in this case, like because like, you can lie, and it doesn't.
What do you guys think about forking this to discuss posts, and then because there's lots of research paper and stuff and lots of things to think about, so maybe it's more of a long form.
Yeah, I don't have a fully fleshed out idea on this. It's just something that I think could fit, but I haven't looked into the specifics, so sure.
And yeah. And I guess that's also like one of the things we want to try to do this quarter, like figure out this kind of plan, and either like something about what Dimitri's saying, or maybe there's other things as well that we can do, like hybrid solutions. So it's not something we have to rush. Well, so I don't know, Ricardo or Barry or other smart contract devs, maybe just some thinking you have or whatever things you've read that are relevant to this. Useful to have as many people brains as possible on this, I think. Justin, do you have any other research updates?
Nothing more right now.
So I guess next one, product updates, if there are anything specific under chat wallet or app. So I guess we're going to talk about PFS after, but I guess is there anything else around chat? Sure. You just got back, so maybe. Or wallet, Corin?
Hi. Well, there's nothing really super interesting about wallet. At the moment, it's in bug fixing and cleanup phase.
Right.
So, right now I'm refactoring the wallet namespaces. Basically, the idea is to make it more testable with unit tests right now. To have more pure functions, ideally. So to reduce the regression surface. I guess the one interesting thing is the addition of ENS usernames in Wallet Send that's currently like about to become WIP. So there's that. And that's actually the thing we used for security champions experiment as well, for threat modeling. So would it be interesting? Igor, I know this is an experiment, but maybe we should like publish the end results or something for others to. We should definitely use the findings.
Yeah, I think first of all, every threat found due to the threat modeling, I think we should publish, and we should probably compile some kind of report on this, how it went, and
all right,
maybe I think it will help everyone to be on the same page. But yeah, as soon as we get the East India thingy settled, I guess I can just do the report and share the documents.
Cool.
Maybe end of week or so.
Yeah, we're busy with the India thing anyway. Yeah, the token and that. Yeah. So basically, the bulk of the new things in Wallet is really is really on the refactoring side, which is actually a nice change after the bug fixing. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions around the Wallet area for me or anyone else?
I have some personally, but I think that's going to be with just that one-on-one that I have with you later on.
Yeah, all right.
All right, cool. That is Andrew here.
Yeah. So.
Oh, sorry, Andrew. Sorry.
You
sorry. No. Yeah. Go ahead if you have something with the DApp.
No. Sorry. I thought you said Andrea. Not me. Next time.
All right. Cool. But I get. Yeah. It's you. If Andrew is not. Yeah. Right. So Andrea, chat PFS stuff.
I'm confused. PFS now?
Yeah, exactly. Because Andrea is here for DApp. I don't think there's anyone else on DApp today. Is there? Yeah. So please, Andrea, go ahead.
Okay. So I can give an update of where we are at the moment. So as we probably know, we are implementing PFS. So far, the strategy we're going to follow is basically follow quite closely what Signal has. So X3DH plus double ratchet. So the moment we implemented a basic as X3DH, so that the clients can share a key exchange, share a key and communicate with the current app. And we have implemented persistence using SQLite encrypted in status quo. So we can store a key fairly safely on the status quo side. And now we're moving on to use to implement double ratchet. We're not implementing the double ratchet ourselves. We have already an implementation that was done for status some time ago. So it's just a matter of making sure that it works. At the moment, there are some tests failing, so we need to look into that, and just making it compatible. So they use a different key. We use Ethereum key, which is like ZCP256K. They use can't remember 25509 keys, something like that. So we need to sort of make them talk to each other. So that's basically the update on PFS. There's some discussion on basically how to solve the initial key exchange, which is the hardest bit, and the bit that we are not quite sure yet how to solve. And so that part hasn't really been, we don't have a strategy yet. We have a few ideas. You can follow, on GitHub. Basically, the idea is to essentially require some sort of storage. The idea is to use anything that we have, right now. So we can use, for example, we start with, propagating the bundle for content updates, public chats, QR codes, contact codes, and then we move on to ENS because ENS we need to make sure that is the case. You can store arbitrary pieces of data on ENS. So that's one of the way we can share the bundle, and then move to other stuff like, for instance, Warm, which is not ready now, and so we would we would have to run our own class that do that. But that comes, not just now. Let's say that's in the next iteration. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I have a question on if we're moving things to status quo side, if that has any implications on desktop. And I know there was some stuff around how message passing works and some bugs and stuff. Is there some coordination that is needed there? I don't know, Max.
No. Oh, it basically status hierarchy is very, there's very little changes that are required to make this work. It's very transparent. Right? So instead of you just use a different endpoint when you make a Whisper call. You don't go Whisper directly anymore. So you don't post. You just make a different call. So that's all the changes that are needed on Status React. So I would think that it works with desktop as well.
Right, cool. I guess, are there any other thoughts around sort of the initial key exchange? Like, is something people want to talk about there? Right. Andrea, Whisper Wallet key idea?
Yeah. So, so we've been thinking about this for a while. So now we started an idea, which is work in progress, and there's a topic in discuss. So just to recap, so the basic idea is to use two different keys, key pairs for Whisper and for the wallet. So for now, we just have one. So it means that the public key that is used for the chat is the one that is basically using to derive the address in for the wallet. So the problem is that just by chatting, anyone is like exposing their wallet and all their transaction, especially in a public chat where any active user are like exposing their identity. So for these reasons, so for security and privacy reason, we want to like extend the key store that we have now to have two different keys, one for Whisper and one for the wallet, so that if one is compromised, it's not going to compromise the other one. And of course, there are some compatibility issues on this, but also the other Andrea proposed some things that you can read about in Discuss. But in general, the first thing we need to do is adding changing the protocol so that before sending some value through the chat, we request basically the other user address, because the current implementation is like just using the chat contact and then deriving the address. In this case, will be a complete different one, and we can maybe release the first update with this, and then we can completely change the application to use the two different keys. And I think for sure we will need a lot of UX and UI work on this, because it will be a longer process when you start sending some value in the chat. And also from the security perspective, we need to maybe talk more about it and see if there are any issue or something like this. Is there any question?
Do people have any concerns about this?
I was curious about whether or not these two keys, when they're separated, are derived from a single seed phrase, or there's going to be two different seed phrases associated with them, or is there even a seed phrase associated?
Yeah. So for now, so the idea would be, my idea would be to use a different derivation path from the same seed, okay. So that one account is recovered or created with the same mnemonic phrase, and then we derive two different keys. But we can discuss about it just to understand if there's any other, I don't know, security concerns or something.
Yeah. I was viewing it the same way, so.
Okay, cool.
All right, cool. I guess before we sort of finish up with some meta things, is there something that people feel like we should have talked about that we haven't? I don't know, maybe something around less or ULC, or some stuff around contracts and DAO stuff, or anything like this. All right, cool. So just briefly, so this is obviously the first time we do this. So I guess any feedback, like generally speaking, was this type of meeting useful to people?
For me, it was incredibly useful because it helps me get up to date on what's going on quickly. If possible, those who contributed, if you could add into the HackMD, if there's something you needed to say or said that wasn't included in the notes, can you add it yourself?
Yeah, I was going to bring up the same thing. Makes sense.
Yeah, +1. So we're going to merge this, and then it will be part of the Git repo, so people can refer to it later. Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
In terms of keeping time, I think perhaps an idea is to focus on things that need a decision or are about the future in this call, because we already have the town hall for things that are from the past, for updates of things that have happened.
Mm-hmm. What in terms of what can improve?
Yeah, just a general note that if you're bringing an issue to this particular call, perhaps it's good if it's about the future and not so much about updates on what has happened already. Just as a way to manage time, because we ran over by whatever.
Yeah, I agree. Any other stuff? Cool. What did people particularly like or get out of it? Was it something that was particularly useful to people? What went well?
Sorry, Oscar. I know I was late, but may I also add to the previous question?
Yeah, of course.
So I completely agree with the structure in time and with agendas, because it's not only to talk. We need to understand what we need out of each topic. Like, is it a presentation, how it works right now, and then like proposition, and then what actually is needed, like solution or agreement or next meeting or anything. And of course, it's the first one, so you never know. And I really appreciate having something to watch when someone is talking, because sometimes I can't follow. Sometimes there is interruption on the line, and it's not easy. So if something can be like, you can share the screen and show a bit of thing you're talking about, it would be helpful. Like this 2 cents from me. That's it.
Anyone else? Right. So yeah, I guess if it would be very useful, like if you just have a look through the notes, and if you feel like you can contribute something, that would be great. And then later this week we'll push it up to the Git repo, and then we'll have another meeting in 2 weeks' time, and there will be an agenda, I'll create like a scaffolding issue where people can add stuff. So please just add stuff that you want to talk about and what you want to get out of it. And then if the recording went well, we'll have some kind of stream and put it up as well. And then for next meeting, we'll hopefully have a slightly more robust solution for that. Maybe a meet, I don't know. But this seems, maybe Zoom or something, but this seems to have worked quite all right. We'll see. Cool, so thanks so much for joining, everyone.